We've got 7 different stories from 7 different media outlets, you guys. It's time for another episode of Regan's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of Regan's Newsround, where I cover 7 different stories from 7 different media outlets here in the UK. And we start with The Guardian with the headline of Labour candidate in Scotland suspended over racist social media activity. Constituents reported tweets liked and shared by William Brown, who used to stand in the Kilgard and Cowbeef area. This is... there's actually, now obviously I don't normally go across the pond to Scotland to cover news stories of that such. However, it is quite interesting that a YouGov poll recently came out stating that there is looking like more support for Labour than there is for the SNP. Now, obviously, most people on my channel who are subscribers and members who are for Scottish independence and, of course, very much in the belief of SNP. That would be a great, no doubt that is a cause for concern that YouGov is polling that. Now, does that mean that the SNP are going to lose a ton of seats? No, it is a poll. I will always say with polls, take it with a pinch of salt. And it should be something that the SNP should be worried about. I do think they should be concerned about that kind of polling. But Labour themselves haven't exactly shined themselves in glory over in Scotland either, to be fair, have they? And this here is really not a very good image for them whatsoever. I mean, at least they've responded. I'm sure that at least they've responded to this Labour. But still, the fact that a Labour candidate pulled over these racist social media activity is definitely one for concern. Let's read a little bit into this, you guys. So, Labour has suspended a parliamentary candidate pending an investigation after she was found to have liked and shared a number of racist and controversial social media posts. Just before we go any further, you really, if you're going to be stepping into politics in any way, shape or form, if you're going to have a social media account, you really need to be careful about what you're sharing, what you're tweeting, what you're retweeting and liking. That can really come back to bite you. You really need to think very carefully about what you're saying, because you're endorsing something. When you like a tweet, you're endorsing something. When you're retweeting it, you're in absolute agreement normally of what it is. And that is the perception when you do those kind of things. Wilmot Brown, who is running in the target seat for Kirkcaldy and Cowdenbeath, once held by the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, has since deleted her account on X after a string of tweets were reported to the party. Well, that's kind of your own fault there. Like backtracking now, why did you do it in the first place? A constituent in the Scottish seat had compiled a list of tweets highlighting Brown's activity online. Brown had liked a post that told an Indian man he would never be an Englishman. In another, calling Scotland's First Minister Hamza Yusuf the First Minister of Gaza and Hamza useless. These are not. These are completely inappropriate comments. I mean, this is more of a verbal insult, which you really shouldn't be throwing around. Shouldn't be endorsing insults like this at opponents. Like you can see people on Twitter making that kind of remark there, but you're crossing a line here with these, definitely. Scottish Labour received reports upon Brown's social media on Tuesday night, and the party suspended her the next day. Is understood. The action taken marks a step contrast to the handling of the suspension of Azhar Ali, the Labour candidate for Rochdale by-election, who was forced to apologise after remarks he made about Israel surfers. He was suspended 48 hours later. So the response was much, much quicker. Mark Forte KC, who was commissioned by the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer to investigate allegations of bullying, racism and sexism within the party, said the party's handling of Ali's very inflammatory and clearly anti-Semitic remarks appear shambolic. Brown, a Unison activist and NHS nurse, also liked tweets suggesting Yosef have complained that there were too many white people in Scotland. Again, how did this person get to be a candidate? How did this person get to be a candidate making these? Now, surely, I mean, we talked about I'm sure we talked about like some of the insane candidates that some of the people that Reform are taking on. How on earth did this person get to be a Labour candidate? If they were doing this, this clearly means that Labour are not checking their background on their candidates, because this should not have happened in the first place. Clearly, they've not been doing that. In 2020, Youssef, the then Justice Secretary, had taken part in a debate with Hollywood, challenging racism after the murder of George Floyd. He highlighted how many prominent public roles were being held by white people. Some people have been surprised or taken back by the mention on my social media that at 99% of the meetings that I go to, I'm the only non-white person in the room, he said in the speech. Why are we so surprised when the most senior positions in Scotland are filled by almost exclusively by people who are white? A Labour Party spokesperson said the Labour Party takes all complaints seriously. They are fully investigated in line with our rules and procedures, and any appropriate action is taken. Well, drop the candidate is, it's just, it's just not pathetic. It really is disgusting to say the least. Like, she's not explicitly saying them, but if you're liking and retweeting those, you're basically telling people this is my feelings. This is how I generally feel about a certain group of people, and that's clearly what it comes across there. And you deleting your account doesn't change the fact that you still did what you did. So hopefully this will be the last we'll see of her, or she'll probably end up in the Reform Party or something, before liking and retweeting something like that, which is what I fear it may end up similarly going down to. But absolutely disgusting, to say the least. Not a very good image for the Labour Party. They still do have they're still having lots of issues. Obviously, they still had those 20 councillors that quit last week or earlier this week as well over Gaza. So it's not all fine and rosy in the Labour Party in any way, shape or form. So their problems are still persisting, and they're not going away anytime soon, guys. One person who actually, I cannot believe this story, guys. Apparently, the Prime Minister apologised. Rishi Sunak offers a fulsome apology to Adidas Samba fans. What? The Prime Minister has been accused of ruining Adidas Samba. So I've been pictured wearing a pair at Downing Street, but here has a message for devotees of the classic trainer. Do you know what this is, guys? This is a boycott. They are going to boycott Adidas trainers now because Rishi Sunak's been seen wearing them. Because nobody wants to associate themselves with Rishi Sunak. I'm actually an Adidas fan as well. We have to boycott Adidas. We got to boycott Adidas. They've been supported by the Prime Minister. We can't endorse this. Nope, we can't do this, guys. Do you know what's really infuriating here? He offers a fulsome apology. What about, on some of the more serious matters that's going on in the world? How about an apology for the post office scandal on behalf of the government? How about an apology for the ringwash scandal? How about apology for Britain's colonialism activities in its history? How about apologies for some of them? I'm sure there's a lot more that people will say in the Premier Chat right now. There are other things that the Prime Minister could apologise on behalf of its government and His Majesty's government. But no, he actually says an apology for Adidas Samba fans. It was the picture that laughed warnings of death of a popular trainer, the Prime Minister, in a box, fresh pair of Adidas Samba, paired with sooty trousers and a white shirt. Oh, I will just say before people attack the reporter here, who cares what the reporter is wearing footwear-wise? She's a reporter. She's not the Prime Minister of the damn country. So for those attacking the reporter, because I have seen people attacking the reporter online, by the way, for wearing trainers as well. And I'm like, she's not the Prime Minister. Just saying. He was accused of ruining an eternal cool sneaker by GQ, while other magazines rushed to offer a list of alternative trainers after Rishi Sunak killed the Samba's credibility. He's now offered a fulsome apology to the Samba community. Too late. The damage has been done. Too late. In a video posted on social media last week, Mr. Sunak, who claimed he is a lifelong devotee of the brand, was shown wearing the white trousers during an interview in Downing Street. Sambas, according to Adidas, are a legendary shoe with a rich history. In recent years, they've been adopted by trendy millennials and GZ women who wear them in their various Get Ready With Me videos and pair them with summer dresses and leather jackets. But as footwear historian Elizabeth Schimmelhack wrote in The Telegraph, it could prove to be the death knell for the retro trainer. The Prime Minister acknowledged the uproar in the first time on Wednesday. I issue a fulsome apology to the Samba community, he told LBC Radio. But in my defense, I would say I've been wearing Adidas trainers, including Sambas, and others, in fact, for many, many years. Yeah, but you don't want to publicly shout about it. The first pair my brother got for me is many, many years ago. The first pair of Adidas trainers at my Christmas present. I haven't looked back since, and I've been a long time devotee. Listen. Rishi. That's totally cool, but you're the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. You shouldn't be wearing them especially on camera. If you're off camera, as long as you're not on camera, nobody's going to give a toot because nobody's going to know. But if you're going to put it on camera, you're damaging that brand. Just saying. I mean, it's not like Barack Obama can flash them around and you know, he's a little bit different. He's got a bit more charismatic to you, something like that. So I'm just going to put that comparison up there if anyone wants to put that in. He added that the pair in the video I did buy, but I had Adidas trainers for a very long time. He bought them himself, guys. Are we sure he didn't pay out? He didn't use his MP expenses to buy them. But Mr. Sunak has also faced questions about the short length of his trousers, saying he was intrigued and amused by the amount of focus on what I'm wearing. This isn't the first time a Prime Minister has made headlines because of his shoes. In 2023, he was mocked for wearing Timberland boots during a speech about the government's drive to stop the boats, with people pointing out they were disproportionately large. Yeah, he does look like he's just come, he does look like that he's come from the... Excuse me. Sometimes I do 7 in a row, just for the record. Excuse me. I could edit it out. I might not. Yeah, wearing Timberland boots. Apologies. Wearing Timberland boots. He does look like he's been out hiking or something. That doesn't look very prime ministerial. I think it's the word I'm trying to find here. Yeah, your appearance really does matter as a Prime Minister. Really does. It wasn't long before people started making memes online, instead showing Mr. Sunak in one giant boot, the other saying he should instead stop the boots. Yes, the infamous stop the boots. The year before that, he was criticised for wearing a £490 pair of Sude's Pranda shoes to a building site. And in 2021, he was quick to point out that he's £95 sliders as he prepared to deliver the budget. It comes across extremely cocky, cocky, and putting himself above others. That's how it portrays to me, and I don't know how you guys feel, but it just feels like, as a Prime Minister, like. Obviously, you could have difference of opinions, obviously, on what position you are as a politician. But when you are out and about, especially in the public eye, your appearance to certain things that you're going to really, really do matter. And you really need to take that into consideration. I understand, like, his love for Adidas Samba fans and those Timberland boots and whatnot. I get all that, but it's totally cool. But there's a time and a place for wear them. And wearing them in front of the camera, wearing them at an interview, is not exactly appropriate. It really is not. I mean, it's quite annoying that he offers a fulsome apology to Samba fans, but won't offer an apology for the mistakes and things that the government has made. That's really infuriating, to say the least, guys. But just before I go to the next one, guys, I just want to say, if you haven't already, please hit the like button and share us across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel, guys. And thank you for everyone who has done so. It is really, really appreciated. This next one, guys, is from the BBC. The headline that the UK foreign aid spending on asylum seekers rises again. So foreign aid had gone down initially at one point by the government, but it looks like they brought it back up again. We are one of the biggest gifters of foreign aid out there. I know I've seen some people in the comments saying we shouldn't be giving any foreign aid at all, and I'm like, do you really want to have no influence in the world whatsoever? Like, come on, let's be realistic. I get we have our own issues, but on this asylum seeker issue, this is once again Rishi Sunak promising to stop the boats, still hasn't stopped the boats, promising to get flights in the air before the next general election, still waiting on that bet, whether it's going to pay off with him and Piers Morgan. Still can't find an airline to get to do it, still can't get past certain laws as well. There's just too many hoops to get that Rwanda bill in. Excuse me. And even if he did all that, it's still not going to stop people coming to the UK via boats anyway. There is no legal route for people to claim asylum here in the UK. There's no legal route unless you're from Ukraine, unless you're from Hong Kong. There's still isn't even a legal way for people in Gaza to what's happening in Gaza for them to come as well. So as long as that is an issue, we're always going to have people crossing on the boats. So that's the only way you're going to stop the boats, unless you create legal routes for people. And it's going to continue whether we like it or not. So more than a quarter of all UK overseas aid was spent on asylum costs and at home last year, new figures have shown. The Foreign Office statistics reveal 4.3 billion of its foreign aid budget went on supporting refugees and asylum seekers in the UK. That represents a 16% increase from the 3.7 billion that was spent in 2022. The government said it had spent 15 billion on development last year, including on humanitarian aid in Gaza, and had thinking I got a spell check there, had doubled spending in poorer countries. But critics say the government had lost its grip by allowing the Home Office to use foreign aid budgets, weakening crisis preventing schemes. Labour's Shadow International Development Minister Lisa Nandy said it was beggars' belief that the government was using the overseas aid budget to bail out their failing asylum seeker system with a blank cheque. It is. It is. But they're not fixing the problem. They're not fixing immigration. That's the problem. They're not fixing the actual problem with it. She said, this is a sticking plaster politics at its worst. Terrible value for money for British taxpayers, and there is no way to run the development budget for all the Home Office. Under current aid rules, the government can spend overseas assistance on what they call in-donor refugee costs for the first year that an asylum seeker is in the UK. Charities and the UK aid watchdog criticised ministers for allowing aid spending to rise in the UK at the expense of helping the poorest people overseas. Much of the 4.3 billion is spent by the Home Office, about 2.9 billion, mostly on housing for asylum seekers. The rest covers education, health and other social needs. The UK's overall budget in 2023 has risen by 2.6 billion since the previous year, taking the total to 15.4 billion. Data published by the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, the FCDO, has showed. However, less money was spent on the FCDO's overseas bilateral aid commitments, 4.1 billion that on asylum seekers in the UK, the same data showed. And that the UK's bilateral spending on humanitarian assistance fell from 1.1 billion in 2022 to 888 million in 2023. And the official watchdog of government aid spending, the Independent Commissioner for Aid Impact, the ICAI, said they had continuing concerns about the value for money and allowing the Home Office to spend an unlimited amount on hosting asylum seekers at the expense of the SCDO's budget, and is cutting across the normal lines of accountability. Because they don't want to put their hand in their own pocket, so they're going to cut foreign aid and use that to spend towards it. The Home Office is so out of control. It's so out of control. We need Yvette Cooper needs to control that, get a grip on that once she comes in. She really does. Tamsin Barton, the ICAI's chief commissioner, added, what's more, using so much of the aid budget on UK asylum hotels rather than on supporting people is the nearest home, it is equable and ineffective. A government spokesperson said the UK has spent 15 billion on development last year, including on humanitarian aid in Gaza. And how's that going? We're also nearly doubling our spend in low-income countries. That's financial year, they added. Last year's budget was boosted by additional funding to support refugees in the UK who have escaped oppression and conflict overseas, including from Ukraine and Afghanistan. Well, there's still some caveats yet to some of the people being able to come from Afghanistan here. That's the water bottle for those asking. We will continue to ensure our aid delivery delivers value for money for British taxpayers. And the thing on Afghanistan is obviously there's not a clear route for them. They make it very difficult for the Afghans, especially those who helped our British soldiers when we were there. There's still some of them there that still want to come to the UK, and they should be allowed to because of their contributions of helping our British armed soldiers out there. Separately, the Home Secretary James Cleverly has announced about 150 asylum seekers' hotels will close by May, and the closure process will continue until the last hotel is closed. The Home Office spent about $8 million every day last year on such accommodation, about more than 56,000 asylum seekers at the hotel at the end of September, and about 36,000 now. Labour Shadow Immigration Minister Stephen Kinnock accused the Home Secretary of celebrating failure over asylum chaos. The so-called asylum hotels didn't exist before the Tories lost control of the asylum backlog, and Rishi Sunak promised to end them by the end of 2023, he said. He said a Labour government would create a new cross-border unit in partnership with the Europol to smash the criminal smuggler gang and introduce a returns unit that would remove people with no right to be here. It's frustrating how taxpayer money, in my opinion, is being wasted, because I do feel like it's being wasted, guys. I generally feel like it's being wasted with the way that this is being done, and it's really annoying, to say the least, guys. It's very, very annoying, and it should be handled a lot better. But clearly it's not. It clearly is not being handled a lot better than it should be. But these guys, they really don't care how they use that money, all just to propagate the fact that they're cracking down on immigration and whatnot. But we're just not seeing it. And foreign aid really does matter. Really does it's very, very important from an international point of view of us. I understand the cause. I understand the arguments that people say about us. We give too much foreign aid. I understand that concerns. I really, really do. But it is still very important that we have that the UK as a whole has influence around the world, and foreign aid does play an impact in that. It's not just going to helping deprived countries. Also, it helps with our international relationships with other nations as well. Foreign aid is very important, and we must not lose sight of that, guys. It really, really is important. So the next one before we cut to our break is an exclusive from iNews. But just before we do, guys, if you haven't already, please consider becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Being a YouTube member really does help financially support me, and it really does help Ollie here. Ollie wants to say thank you to everyone who is a YouTube member, whether it's 99p or 2.99. It really does help financially support the work we do. Isn't that right, Ollie? What's that? Yeah, he's very great. He says, thank you to everyone who does support the work we do here. The orb and the love lamp are there in all its glory. I should have moved the microphone a bit further back, but there you go. You can still see it. It's not formed yet, but maybe it'll form a bit later. Other ways you can financially support me is not just that. If you want to give a super chat, you can do. It'd be greatly appreciated. Other ways as well. If you want YouTube to take less of a percentage of the cut, and want me to get more of that percentage, you can do so by becoming a Patreon supporter. And unlike some other YouTubers who simply just have a Patreon for the sake of it, on there you actually get some exclusive content. As well as getting exclusive content, you also get some additional videos for free if you join Patreon as well. So just by creating an account and following me on there, you can get access to additional content on there, even if you choose not to pay into the Patreon. So please consider subscribing on Patreon. It really does help me there. Another way, if you wanted to, you could also buy me a coffee as well. A link for that is in the description as well. To anyone who has given a super chat or gifted members or stayed on as members or Patreon supporters, thank you all for your support. It is really, really appreciated. So this next one is a very interesting one, guys. This one, obviously, as I said, it's exclusive from iNews. It's been revealed Labour's plans to fix the bus crisis with public ownership of failing services. Areas where the plans is thought to be under consideration include Cambridgeshire, Liverpool, Peterborough and West Yorkshire, following a similar scheme in Manchester. So bus service cut from 2010 to 2013 here. So from 2010 to 2013, this is since the coalition and the Conservatives have rose to power. So all these guys have been bus services that have been, the percentage of them have been cut since from 2010 to 2023. North Yorkshire 52%, Stoke 64%, Shropshire 64%, Toby 51%, Bath 52%, Slough 65%, Peterborough 55%, and Rutland 70%. All these, more than half of their bus service that they had in 2010 is gone. This is because of austerity again. We've talked about austerity. We've talked about the damage that here has done. And bus services, these bus services really matter, not just for ordinary people, not just for ordinary people, not just for the people going to and from work, but for senior people as well, who can't drive anymore, who cannot go far, who and need that bus to get them from A to B to the shops and come back home. These buses are really, really important, especially in the rural areas. These buses are crucial to them, and it's very, very sad. It's really, really sad. Now, I personally think that what the schemes that they've done, what Andy Burnham has done in terms of bus servicing in Manchester is nothing short but fantastic, and they need to be applying a more variety of networks, of public bus networks in the north. Similar to what London has, but in their own areas, maybe obviously like Liverpool has, like Manchester has, but places like Newcastle and Stoke, Hull need to have like a connection network of buses so that they can connect to one another, because you can't even rely on at the moment, you can't even rely on the train services up north because they're so freaking poor. Public service really, really matters to people. And it's easy when people say, get on your bike. Well, maybe cycling you to your job, maybe it might be a bit of a stretch. It might be quite far for you to cycle you to your job. So while I'm sure some of these people have actually turned to cycling to and from work, and maybe even electric scooter, which they shouldn't be doing really, and among other ways of getting to and from work, bus services are vital. They are really, really important to people. And I generally hope that that Labour has a solid plan to make it work. And hopefully it won't come too much of a cost to the taxpayer. But I will say, if it means pay, would you pay a tax if it meant that you have better bus services in your area, that you could get from A to B, that people can get from A to B? I would say, yeah, I think people would bite the bullet and do that if they could. So, Labour would attempt to fix England's bus crisis by effectively nationalising many services across the country in its first term of office, the Eye can reveal. Louise Haigh, the Shadow Transport Secretary, claims the plan will create and save up to 1,300 bus routes, allowing 215 million more passenger journeys per year. The pledge follows exclusive research from Eye showing 16 million miles of England's bus routes have been axed since 2010. 16 million miles, guys. That's terrible. The plan, which is based on Manchester's plans to bring struggling bus services under public control, intends to make it easier for local authorities to take over failing transport companies. In Manchester, the Mayor Andy Burnham has been forced to apologise after frustrating passengers complained of nightmare problems with publicly owned services, with buses arriving 2 hours late and turning up already full. So it's not all been rosy for Andy Burnham, that's for sure. Areas where the plan is already thought to be under consideration due to underperforming services, including Cambridgeshire, Liverpool, Peterborough, and West Yorkshire. So all these areas are looking at as well. In the West Midlands, Oxfordshire, Strathclyde and Bristol campaigns to take bus service into public ownership have already been started, while candidates in the mayoral elections in North Yorkshire and North East have shown support. Labour claims it will not require any additional central government money, although the plan does rely on funding for cash-strapped councils and mayor, and it cannot certainly say where this money will come from. Tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. Conservative Transport Minister Guy Oberman argues the policy won't work and will result in significant council tax rises. You can't say twaddle, because simply you guys cut our bus services. That's your guys and that's your austerity. He needs to shut his mouth. Campaigners welcome the proposal, but caution any plan would almost certainly require extra government funding. Yes, they will have to put their hands in their pockets to make this work, but I think it is a necessity. And I think if it means, like I said, if it means in a form of a tax, and I generally would like to put this to anyone from England, would you be in favour of a tax if it meant you had better public services, if it meant your buses would be on time, if it meant you could get to somewhere that you couldn't get to before because you didn't have a bus. Yeah, you're able to get to a job that you couldn't apply for before, but now you can because of a better bus service. Would you pay for that tax if it made a difference? And I think the general answer is yes. I think people would. Mrs Hague told the Eye for too long people across this country have been denied a say over their bus service. The result has been a disaster for communities and the local economies. Labour's mayors across the country have already begun the hard work of put local people back in the driving seat, but it's not right that there is a postcode lottery in the state of the local bus service. That is why Labour will extend the power to deliver better buses at every community. Labour's plans will reverse the decline in local buses, and we will deliver the biggest reform to bus service in a generation. I've heard that kind of rhetoric before. I'd like to think it's true, but time will tell on that answer. Ms Hague, who has previously announced Labour would renationalise the train service, said the party would pass primary legislation called the Better Buses Bill during its first term in government as part of a 5-point plan to deliver the better bus services. At an event in Birmingham on Tuesday, Mrs Hague will reveal that Labour will use the legislation to speed up the time it takes to bring the routes under its control. The legislation will apply to England only, as bus services are devolved matters in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. Manchester took 6 years to bring its bus service back under public control, but Labour claims it will reduce government red tape and bring this process down to as little as 2 years. Yeah, it took a long time for Labour to get it under public control because they didn't get anything from the Conservative government. But while the Transport Minister, the current Conservative Transport Minister, is twaddle about this, it's important to say that there is obviously on a local level there's a lot of cross-party consensus on wanting buses back in public hands as well. So there is a lot of cross-party consensus, I would say, with Labour, Lib Dems and Greens, and even some Conservatives there. So there is a cross-party consensus to bring it back into public ownership because the system that they have, that the buses that we have in the majority of areas outside of London is just not working. While the average time taken to franchise buses in England's town, cities and regions is between 3 years and 4.5 years, Labour believes the accelerated programme will reduce this to an average between 2.5 years and to 4 years. Labour will also repeal the Section 22 of the Bus Service Act in 2017, allowing for the creation of newly public-owned bus companies to give local transport authorities the power to take direct control of services. Initially, it's understood regional bus services taken under public control will run alongside privately run services, but that these may be phased out if local leaders seek to bring all operations into local authorities. How this will be funded remains uncertain. While Labour claims no central government coffers will be used to fund the move, it also intends to agree multi-year funding settlements from the Treasury for cash-strapped councils and mayors. There will have more room to manoeuvre with a Labour government than they will with this Conservative one, that's for sure. Labour will initially prioritise mayors that are actively pursuing franchises of bus services for such devolved funding, with longer term aim to provide elsewhere in England with more control over bus funding. Spokeswoman for the campaign group Bus Users UK said, "In our experience, people want reliable, affordable buses, don't have a strong view on what the regulatory system is. What matters is that there is a long-term ring-fence funding to support bus services across the UK, and it's up to the government to determine how they will be afforded. There will, of course, be in some areas, rural areas, for example, that we need extra support from central government. We will await those details." Michael Summons from the charity Campaign for Better Transport added, "This is a welcome commitment to improving and protecting our vital bus networks. Buses are the country's most used form of public transport, but more than a quarter of bus services have been lost in the last decade." Exactly. And the other thing as well is by taking, let's just come to my mind, guys, by taking away those bus services as well, it also means more people are turning back to their cars, getting in their cars and driving them, which is also bad for the climate, producing more CO emissions, because we're actually using more cars, which is meaning more congestion on our traffic because we're not relying on the buses we're not relying on our buses because we're turning to our cars and vehicles instead of actually using public services, which would actually reduce those emissions as well. So we're also damaging the climate by reducing our buses service. So it really does come across as well. That's also anti-climate as well from the government's point of view of their austerity on our bus services. Giving local authorities a choice over the bus system that works best for them, with greater control of routes, fares and standards where needed, could help sustain and protect bus services, creating a more reliable bus network for all. Everyone, no matter where they live, should have access to a quality bus service without risk of it being cut, which is why we're calling for a minimum bus level service for all communications and long-term ring-fence funding for all local authorities. I'm getting ready to join the B network. Sorry, I was going to say Bus B network, but it doesn't. It says B network. Manchester leads the way on taking buses back in public control. In September last year, Greater Manchester became the first English region outside London to take back ownership of its public bus transport service. The move was not without controversy, as in October, Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester, came under fire over a series of delays and cancellations on his new London-style transport network. Frustrated passengers on the B network complained of nightmare problems, with buses arriving 2 hours late and already turning up full. The network launched with 50 new electric buses fitted in a yellow and black livery, with several hundred more due to be delivered over the next few years. Since the teething issue with the service, Mr. Burnham has attempted to assure local residents that the next phase of buses will be smoother. We didn't expect everything to be perfect, but everyone involved has rolled up their sleeves and has been working hard to make things better, he said. In February, he confirmed the next phase of the B network rollout will go ahead as planned. The new transport system will, by 2025, see trams, buses, commuter rails and cycle hire roll into one platform, with the aim of making it easier to get around Greater Manchester. The Manchester Mayor has also pledged the £2 bus fare cap will remain in place for at least the current year. It's my mission to keep fares low and standards of service high, he said. That's why the £2 fare cap will be in place for at least this calendar year, but hopefully beyond that as well. The deregulation of bus services began in 1989 under Conservative MP Margaret Thatcher, where the routes were given private operators in many areas. Since privatisation, bus fares in the UK as a whole have almost doubled in real terms since 1987. Yeah, because privatisation, right? Capitalism, Let the markets deal with it. How's that going for us? In 2019, there were 1.5 billion bus journeys in England's region outside London compared to when the service was deregulated in 1985, according to government statistics. In 2023, there were also around 300 million fewer miles driven by buses per year since 2010, according to the Department of Transport figures. Ms Hague added, Labour will give every community the power to take back control of their bus service. We will support local leaders to deliver the better buses faster. Labour plans will create to save vital routes and services, end today's postcode lotteries of bus services and kickstart a revival of bus services across England. In February, the government announced that a £4.7 billion package to fund improved public services in the North and the Midlands, which included upgrades to local buses and stations. We know the reason why they announced that. It followed the controversial cancellation of the second phase of HS2 rail service between London and Manchester. Rishi Sunak and Transport Secretary Mark Harper said that the North will receive £2.5 billion and the Midlands will receive £2.2 billion from April this year to improve local transport network connections across smaller cities, towns and rural areas. No, HS2 really mattered. I understand the criticism, and I understand that there were a lot of taxpayer money simply disappeared, and it costed the cost for HS2 was inexcusable. I'm not debating the cost on HS2, but I really think they should have continued to plough on ahead with HS2. And I think what should have been done is it should have been halted and a full review should have been done. Independent review into where his money is going and why this is costing this, why is this costing this, like literally a full review, everything, the project on pause and everything reviewed into why is this costing so much, where is this coming from, who's getting paid what. Like I literally everything flat out for an independent body just to look at it all and say, okay, this is where all the money is going, why are we putting this money here and there and what there. Instead of actually doing an investigation into this, it's been completely scrapped, which is completely stupid, pointless. It's already wasted council's taxpayers' money. And the fact that it was started in London is nonce, because London has a very solid public network as it is. It should have started in Scotland, should have started in Edinburgh, come all the way down from there into the rest of the northern network so they can connect in before finally finishing up in London. But instead, no, they had to prioritise London, had to prioritise the south. Should never have been scrapped, in my opinion. It should have been paused and it should have been reviewed by an independent body of why so much money is going out of it. Obviously, I will say, if you haven't seen it already, please go out of your way to check out Alex from Political X YouTube channel. Did a great video breaking down of what happened to so much money within HS2. please go out of your way to check that out. If I find it, I'll put a link in the description for you guys. Mr. Ottoman, the Tory Transport Minister, said Labour's bus nationalisation policy won't work, but we will force huge council tax hikes. Across the country, Labour has no plan. That means that, as always, they will put up your taxes and pick the pockets of hard-working people. Well, you know what? If I would pay more taxes if it meant we have a better bus service. You know what? I would pay more tax if it meant that. I'm just writing that so I don't forget, guys. I would pay more taxes if it meant I have a better bus service. Because guess what? You guys haven't done anything good for our bus service over the last 14 years, have you? Just going to go out on a limb there. So under Labour's Better Bus Bill, every community will have the right to demand the quality of bus service seen in London, ending what the party calls the postcode lottery for passengers. The primary legislation will allow all local transport authorities to have the same automatic rights to access the franchising process as mayors combine authorities and bypass existing requirements to negotiate necessary powers from the Secretary of State for Transport. The legislation will also attempt to overcome legal objections to the chances from existing private operators, which have a key issue that forced Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, to wait 6 years before he can implement the region's new bus regime. Bus franchising is a model that gives control over routes, fares, frequencies, branding, and ticketing to local transport authorities rather than private operators. Do you know why Andy Burnham is actually a really good mayor? It's because you don't hear much about him. That means he's actually working. Bus operators bid for contracts to deliver bus services planned by local transport authorities instead of deciding for themselves where services go, how many there are, and how they will run. If local leaders prefer to exclude the private sector from all buses entirely, Labour will give councils and regional powers to set up their own bus companies similar to services already operating. Excuse me, just getting reflux, apologies. In operations in towns like Blackpool, Nottingham and Reading. Funding for cash-strapped councils and mayors to take back control of their local bus service may prove to be one hurdle the policy given among all are making severe spending cuts and raising council tax bills for local residents to cover budget deficits. The Local Council Association estimates councils in England face a £1.6 billion funding gap in 2024-2025. Following the effective bankruptcy of authorities such as Birmingham and Nottingham last year, a further group of more than 50 councils have warned the government they fear bankruptcy without emergency funding, as many are spending almost half of their budgets on emergency accommodation for homeless people. And that's the situation that councils are finding themselves in, which is why it's like, yeah, we want to do this, but we just don't have any money. So they're going to try. So obviously the intention there from Labour is obviously they're going to try and give more powers to them, which I'm all for. I really am all for that. I guess the real question we have to ask ourselves here in England is, will this work? They are saying the right things about the bus service, which is what I like. They are saying the right things about this. Will it work? I want to say yes. I really want to say yes, guys. But I think the best thing is wait and see. Let's see what they say specifically in the manifesto with regards to buses. But just seeing those numbers we saw right at the start of the article, and I'll just show it again here, guys. Just, you know, these were the numbers. These were the bus service cuts from 2010 to 2023. And that's just those areas there. So just bear that in mind as well. You know, all right across the dots there, like more than 50% of them, and that's not every single one. I'm sure, you know, it's just as bad in other places, but it's still an issue, that is for sure, guys. So, guys, we're about 40 plus minutes in. I think we take a little break from all of this. Hopefully, I know I sometimes seem to do the volume here that I have is different to the volume of the funny video or video that I highlight. So hopefully I'll set the volume a bit lower rather than on max is what I usually do. So hopefully the volume will be all right for you guys. So this guy from Portsmouth just will not go away, guys. You know, I thought already dealt with him already, but nope, he just cannot stop talking, and it's just very, very frustrating to say the least. Yeah. So Colin from Portsmouth is on the line again. What's he got to say?
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
London has fallen, Anthony. It was an inside job by Sadiq Khan in his Islamist Trojan horse.
Where did you hear that from, Colin?
I overheard an elderly made me say it at a village fete over Easter.
Yeah, of
And he
course.
can't even say Easter anymore because of Sadiq Khan's Sharia ules.
Well, what? You never even go to London, Colin, so what does it
Well, I
matter?
would do if it wasn't a no-go area.
Fair
but
enough,
it doesn't mean I shouldn't have a say in how Londoners live. It's our capital city. They have to save themselves from the precipice here, and the only way they can do that is by voting in Susan Boyle as mayor.
Susan Hall, Colin. Susan Hall.
All Boyle, what's the difference?
Well, like Susan Boyle, she's about to be beaten by diversity, I guess.
Susan Hall is the best candidate the Conservatives have in the whole of London.
Yeah, that's quite terrifying when you think of it, isn't it, Colin?
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's because it's such a no-go zone, she's the only Tory brave enough to enter.
Fair, yes.
She might not know the trivial stuff, like how much a bus ride is in this city she loves, or how much the police are paid, or who owns a bridge, or
Right.
how to properly store her Oyster card
quite
when travelling.
lot of stuff.
But Boris Johnson knew even less. We've had enough of these so-called experts.
That is true, Colin. That is true. But what if, with the sheer incompetence she's displayed so far, Susan Hall is in fact the Islamist Trojan horse designed by Sadiq Khan to bring down London for good? What about that, Colin?
Well, I tell you what, that makes far more sense than her being a genuine candidate, Anthony.
It does, yeah.
Susan Jihad Hall. I take my hat off to Sadiq. Well played, sir. Anyway, mate, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin. Love to the family.
Oh, there's a guy with a bin on his head. I'll vote for him.
Bin, Colin. Islamist. Bin.
Ah!
Oh, the Exploding Heads, guys. Please give them a subscribe and follow them on YouTube if you haven't already, guys. They do some great funny videos. They also do some football ones, so if you like your football or soccer as it's called over in America, they do some funny ones on that as well every now and again. But it's good to see. It's been a while since we've had a recent video of Colin from Portsmouth, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I certainly did. So that was a good one to say the least there. What did you make of it, Ollie? Did you enjoy it? Hold on. Yeah. Ollie says, when is he getting on the radio? Ollie, I can't. It's not. Listen, it's not up to me. So, yeah. He always has these crazy things, guys. You know, he always says some crazy stuff, Ollie. There are some things I can't tell you for legal reasons, obviously. I'm sure you guys understand legality and all that kind of stuff as well. What? No, I did not say anything about. No, I did not say about that. No, I didn't say anything about that. Don't you? Why? No, nothing about you in a nightclub. So this next one, guys, is from the Independent. We talked a little bit about this on the Snowflake Watch. Already with regards to the Post Office inquiry, but I thought it'd be nice to have it in an article for those who weren't aware about it. So this is an interesting one, obviously, from the Post Office inquiry. Vennells failed to tell MPs about the 16 cases where Horizon software made errors. It was clear that the government was saying it was nothing to do with them, Tory peer tells the inquiry. The former Post Office Chief Executive Paula Vennells failed to tell MPs about 16 investigated cases where the Horizon computer software had made more errors more than a decade ago. Inquiry into the scandal was heard. Questioned by members of Parliament in 2012, Ms. Vennells said there had not been a case investigated by authorities where the software was found to be at fault. But according to Jason Beard KC, lead counsel to the inquiry, there have been 16 reports of bugs in the software of court cases where workers were found not guilty. He asked Tory peer and long-standing advocate for victims of the Post Office scandal, James Aberhoff, who was present at the meeting, if Mr. Vennells and other managements mentioned these cases, which appeared to show the software was capable of making mistakes. The former Conservative MP said she and her colleagues had not mentioned any of them. One such dating back to 2006, where a sub-postmistress from Northern Ireland was acquitted of successfully claiming that the software caused a shortfall. Again, just adding to the fact that these people knew what they did, and they were more concerned about making it work, making the business. They were concerned about their income. They were concerned about the Post Office's images. They were more concerned about the Horizon system, making it look like it worked. No care whatsoever about the consequences of these innocent people. No care at all. Post office bosses had long claimed that Horizon accounting software was not responsible for shortfalls in accounts, and that sub-postmasters had been stealing from the company. Lord Aberholt had also raised the sub-postmasters' plight with the Labour government 15 years ago, but was left frustrated by their response when he summed up as no, not me, Gov. In explosive testimony, Lord Aberholt criticised the actions of former government ministers and post office officials, and said he was left frustrated at his reply to his 2009 letter to the then Business Secretary Peter Mandelson, which asked sub-postmasters' complaints over faulty Horizon systems to be investigated. Yeah. So Peter Mandelson was made aware of this then, apparently. And while people are obviously criticising and complaining about Ed Davey's time as Post Office Minister. Answer on a postcard, Peter Mandelson. Answer on a postcard, please. The Tory peer also accused the Post Office of operating a behind-the-scenes deception process, and its former Chief Executive Paula Vennells on keeping key information about the scandal from MPs. Lord Abercroft told the inquiry that the former Labour government avoided responsibility over the scandal after receiving a letter from Junior Minister Pat McFadden, which suggested the concerns were instead a matter for the Post Office. Yeah, they said it's nothing to do with us. It's said it was clear the government was saying that it was nothing to do with them. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, they were trying to just trying to stay off it. In a 2009 letter shown to the inquiry, Lord Abercroft wrote, "There does appear to be a significant number of postmasters, sub-postmistresses accused of fraud who claim that the Horizon system is responsible, including at least 2 in my constituency. Given the level of impact it has had on the personal lives of these postmasters and postmistresses on their families, often involving bankruptcy and significant financial hardship, I should be most grateful if you let me have your comments on what can be done to investigate the matter." Lord Aberhine told the inquiry, "Since the government owned the post office, I assumed that the government would be in a position to sort it out, but they were saying, no, not for me, Gov. I was frustrated and annoyed. It was clear that the government was saying that it was nothing to do with them, and I could see at that stage where I could take it." Lord Aberholt compared the situation to the owner of a dangerous dog refusing to take responsibility for its pet. He said, "What this arm's length arrangement essentially means is that the government is refusing to take responsibility. They go with ownership, and I don't think it's right for various reasons. You cannot say that the dangerous dog has arm's length relationship with you if the dangerous dog behaves badly. The whole process of arm's length control is a dangerous one, it seems to me." The Tory peer also criticised the behaviour of the post office, claiming they had intimidated sub-postmasters by telling them that they were the only people being affected by the shortfall in the Horizon IT system. "There is something at the back of my mind which continues to trouble me, which was the number of these people who were told, 'You are the only person this is happening to,'" the Tory peer said. "That struck me as profoundly wrong because at first it was obviously disapproval. They were not only people as it was happening to. Secondly, it was isolating these sub-postmasters, sub-postmistresses, so they could not get support from one another in the same position." Yeah, this was the other thing they were doing as well, keeping them separated so that they couldn't speak out. And third, it had an element of intimidation about it, all of which set the post office and its way of operating with sub-postmasters in a bad light. Lord also said that the post office misrepresented a key report from the forensic account firm's Second Sight in 2014, which revealed a large number of bugs in the Horizon system because it was preoccupied with protecting its existence. They knew there were large amounts of bugs in the system and they hadn't told MPs about it, Lord had told the inquiry. They were operating in some sort of behind-the-scenes deception process, which suggests to me now that they are stringing MPs along in order to preserve the robustness of Horizon, the existence of Horizon, and possibly the existence of the post office. In a witness statement about the 2014 report, the Tory peer wrote, "It contains many points that were damning." The Tory peer accused Ms Vennells of trying to keep information about the post office scandal from MPs. In a witness statement, he said that following the publication of the report, the post office personnel became defensive, legalistic, and determined to keep from MPs information about which they had previously promised to be open. When asked which personnel he was referring to, Lord Aberholt told the inquiry, "Well, particularly Paula Vennells." Lord Aberholt added that after his rejection of the report by the post office, he and other MPs essentially broke off relations because they couldn't trust the post office anymore. The Tory peer previously said he was not satisfied with the brushing off he received from Miss Vennells back in 2012 after he wrote a letter raising concerns about the complaints from sub-postmasters about the Horizon system. In his witness statement for the inquiry, the former MP said Mrs. Vennells had written an unsigned letter saying that there was no evidence to support those allegations. She was confident that the system was robust and fit for purpose. She knew. She knew, guys. She knew. She absolutely knew, guys. She knew. He wrote, the sub-postmasters had met, seemed to me to be transparently honest. I do not remember anyone suggesting to me that the introduction of a new computerized accounting system had uncovered previous hidden fraudsters. I was therefore not satisfied with the brush-off I was getting by the way of replies in my letters. Lord Ashnot's testimony follows explosive allegations made by Alan Bates, the former sub-postmaster and head of the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance, who said that the post office was an atrocious organisation which was run by thugs in suits and was willing to do anything and everything to hide the horizon IT failures. Between 1999 and 2015, hundreds of post office managers were prosecuted and handed criminal convictions. A post office spokesperson said, our first priority is always to assist the inquiry in its role to establish the truth. It's the inquiry's to reach its own independent conclusions after consideration of all evidence on the issues it is examining. But it's really frustrating, guys. This did not need to happen. They could have sorted this out. This could have been done so much better, but they were more concerned about protecting the reputation of the reputation of the post office. They were more concerned about the reputation of their own skin, the representation of the Horizon IT scandal. Excuse me. And so many people's lives were destroyed. Some of them, sadly, no longer with us. And the more and more we talked about this again yesterday, but like some people have said in the comments then, I'm sure saying now, any chance of any kind of criminal justice is very unlikely. I'd like to think so, but I don't think there will. We want justice for these people. We really, really do. But I just don't think it's going to happen, guys. I really don't. It is so angry, but it's also so saddening because all these people who did nothing wrong, and they suffered just for doing their jobs. And when they screwed up or whatever, or they thought they made a mistake, instead they were expecting help, and instead of getting help, they were saying, "No, you ruined it. You've taken that money." Never even checked their accounts today to see if they actually took the money either. No, didn't care. Just horrible. Horrible, isn't it, Ollie? Yeah, I'm mad too. Absolutely disgusting. Disgusting to say the least, guys. So the next one, guys, is from Open Democracy. It is from a couple of days ago, this one. But I've talked a bit about universities and recently, but this is an interesting one to say the least. So the headline is Academics Call for Transparency Over University Funding. An open letter follows Open Democracy's investigation exposing the scale of dark money in higher education. So more than 120 academics, politicians and campaigners have signed an open letter calling for transparency over university funding in the UK. It follows an investigation by Open Democracy that found more than £281 million of anonymous donations had been poured into the so-called Russell Group University since 2017. Documents reveal how previous attempts to improve transparency were met with dismay by many vice-chancellors who privately lobbied the government to keep the names of the wealthy foreign donors secret. Now the academics are calling for political parties to make manifesto commitments to ensure universities are open about their finances. Now, why, guys? Why are the universities so keen not to share the donations that they're getting? Why do we think that they're trying to keep this quiet? What could possibly be the reasons for this? I mean, what surely these universities, surely the public have a right to know who is giving them money and making these donations. Surely we, as the British public, have a right to know of this. I'm not sure if someone's made a freedom of information request or you can't because of it, but because of possible legal reasons or whatnot. But so I don't know the full details here. But when I first come across this story, I'm just thinking the first thing that comes to my mind is, what have they got to hide? Honestly, What has the Russell Group universities got to hide with these donations? Because clearly they're getting money from people, and that's what it looks like that they shouldn't be getting money from. And that's how it comes across to me. If you've got nothing to fear, you will show it. But the letter, coordinated by Open Democracy, is sent to the Education Secretary Gillian Keegan, as well as the Shadow Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson. It warned that the reputation and integrity of universities could be severely undermined without proper accountability. Gillian Keegan won't give a toot. Bridget Phillipson, I don't think will give a toot either. There is currently no requirement for universities to be transparent, creating real risk of money laundering and reputation laundering, the letter says. Transparency is also vital because of the political influence that donors may have, the potential, influence donors may have. And that's the thing. A large amount of donation to a certain academic can allow you to have a certain of influence, something similar to what's happening with our politicians as well. The letter is signed by academics from leading universities including Oxford, Cambridge London School of Economics, the LSE, Exeter, Bristol, and London University College London, the UCL. Other signatories, including the former Labour Chancellor John MacDonald, the former Conservative Attorney General Robert Buckland, and the Green MP Caroline Lucas, and Labour's Zara Salter. So there's a mixed former and current MPs here as well, also concerned about this as well. The letter calls for action, saying legislation should be introduced requiring universities to publish a register of large donations and research funding. Similar measures were proposed in 2022, led by the Conservative MP Jess Norman, but the rules were massively watered down by the government. And Norman described it as a missed opportunity. Emails obtained by Open Democracy exposed how the proposals were subjected to a coordinated lobbying campaign by university bosses in a bid to keep their funding secret. Cambridge University former Vice-Chancellor told a government advisor that the university's funding abilities could be severely impacted unless foreign benefactors remain anonymous. Other universities privately wrote a celebration after learning they could keep the identity of donors under wraps. Here's the thing, why clearly, if this is, again, this emphasizes the need of who are these people, why are they donating, what are they getting out of it, what is the benefit, why are we not being told? I don't see what, it's clearly they're trying to influence it. Figures released under the Freedom of Information Act shows how dependent institutions have become of these secretive gifts, with much of the much of the money coming from mysterious and controversial sources. In one case, Oxford University accepted a £10 million donation that was facilitated by the president of Azerbaijan's sister-in-law. That's a very odd one. The university is so insistent on keeping donors out of public scrutiny that it's going to call a block of freedom of information requests from Open Democracy. The case is expected to be heard later this month. In total, Open Democracy has found the identities of 68 Oxford donors were kept anonymous since 2017, including at least 10 who gave more than £2 million each. 68! Including at least 10 who gave more than £2 million each. The other argument that people may make as well is that, the other thing is that they need this money. Yeah, and I get this premise of why they need the money, because obviously what's happening in our country right now. I get that premise, but we don't like the fact that you're accepting these donations and we don't know from who. We should know about it, especially when they can influence these universities. That may be of benefit to them and not for the benefit of Britain and the people who are studying there as well. At Cambridge University, documents revealed its major benefactors have previously included fossil fuel giants, tobacco and arm companies, but the university is now fighting to keep a list of these recent donors secret. Fossil fuel giants, tobacco and arm companies. So this will obviously, if true, this will influence obviously people about to try and the misconceptions of climate change into people, to try and influence them into certain teachings about it, to try and deny, to say that the things that are happening in the world are not because of climate change and try to portray them as other things. and to try and talk about the benefits of arms companies in a more lighted matter. If these companies are able, if these so-called companies, if they have donated allegedly, to influence people's opinions about these things at a younger age, so that as they grow older, they don't become a problem for these companies as time passes on. And this is why I believe some of these companies may be doing them. In the open letter, academics warn of potential influence that funders may have over university degrees. Transparency is also vital because of the potential influences that donors may have. Open Democracy's investigation last year found some universities had signed very specific non-disclosure agreements with big donors, including a ban on releasing the names of projects being funded. Other universities routinely invade fossil fuel companies to attend private meetings after donating millions of pounds. Some have taken direct advice from these companies over how to run their engineering and geoscience degrees, with one institution even holding discussions with an oil company about how to push back against anti-oil rhetoric. The Department of Education spokesperson said while universities are autonomous, they should consider the ethical implications of any donations they are offering, including their duties regarding free speech and academic reform. Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act gives officers for students powers to monitor overseas funding and require universities to provide details of gifts, donations, research giants, and other incomes from overseas, which is over a threshold. So this is the letter. This is the letter. I'm not going to read it, guys, but again, the article is in the description if you want to read the letter here in full. But you can see all the people, there that it's been put to there. As you can see, it's quite a long list to the people that they've put to. But if you want to have a read the letter, guys, the link for the article is in the description. And this is the rich and the wealthy and the powerful taking advantage of our institutions, using their money to influence and to try and persuade and change the minds of our next generation into believing something that is not true, whether it is about arms sales, whether it's about climate and whatnot. So if that is true, which is why more than ever we need this freedom of information to come out to say, hey, these companies allegedly are influencing our universities, we have to stop this funding. And if it means hurting these universities to stop them influencing our students and next generation of kids, which could misrepresent and misinform them of what's actually happening in the real world, then yes, we need to stop that. Because I don't believe if what Open Democracy is saying is these companies are donating to them, then clearly they're having a negative effect on the future of our children, the future of our students. And that needs to be clamped down as quickly as possible. And I'm sure you all agree with me on that. So, guys, we've got one more article for you guys. We've been more than an hour long. How are you feeling about the show so far, Ollie? We're almost there. Almost there. Yeah, he's very good. The orb, the lava lamp has not formed, but the orb is still there. Needed that, guys. Needed that. Why did the light on my... why did the light... 1 second, guys. Turn on back on, please. Thank you. I need that light on in case the mic ever... If the mic ever turns red, then I know it's muted. So it's really important the light is on for me, in case you wonder why I have it on now. Because if it turns red, then I know you can't hear me. And it also shows me down here, just for reference. Anyway... Moving on, last story, guys, from Byline Times. This one here, I don't know if you guys heard about this story, but Conservative Party Crime Commissioner faces a probe after appearing in a police uniform in a party election leaflets. What? Yes, this is a quite of a oh my god sort of thing. It's really quite incredible, some of the stories you find these days. It's just absolutely shocking. So forgive me, I'm not going to be able to say this name very well, so I'm just going to describe him as Festus. I'm not going to say his senior name. Festus appears to breach his own office rules by using police imagery for party political ends. Yes. There, here he is, Festus, re-elect as Bedfordshire Police Crimes Commissioner. Working with police to cut crime, my priority for Bedfordshire. But yeah, appearing in a police uniform. What's this really all about, Regan? Okay, well, let me read a bit into it, guys. So, a Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner running for re-election is under investigation for appearing in police uniform on his campaign material in apparent breach of election rules. So, Festus, the incumbent police commissioner for Bedfordshire, faces a probe by his own Bedfordshire Police Office of the Police and Crimes Commissioner, which is working with the Police Area Return Officer, the PARO, and the National Police Chief Council to see whether the Conservatives broke local election rules. If he is found to have broken the protocol, the candidate will be asked to remove the image from their campaign material, an official said. It is not clear how soon the investigation will conclude, given the polling day is just weeks away. He is understood to be an unpaid special constable for a short period of time before being elected in PCC in 2021. Political candidates are typically barred from wearing police uniforms while campaigning, since it could be implied endorsement by the force and could be seen as an attempt to use the authorities of the police service to gain an unfair electoral advantage over opponents. There's your explanation. The College of Policing Code of Ethics and Local Police Force Politics, including that of its own Bedfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner Office, generally prohibit the use of police uniforms, equipment and other police service resources of any political purpose. This would extend to candidates for the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner, who must maintain a clear separation between their candidacy and any official police roles or symbols. Professor Colin Talbot, the Emeritus Professor of Government at the University of Manchester, told this newspaper that the rules against candidates and parties using pictures involving officers or staff in a campaign publicly are clear and well-founded. The police have given permission for any image of police to be used. The police don't like getting dragged into politics or implying police favour one or another. Any person who didn't know that PCCs couldn't be serving police officers would be assured he was the chief of police or something, the governance academics said. Before and throughout the pre-election period, all officers and staff must maintain their impartiality and not be seen to be biased against and or supporting one candidate or partying over another. No, of course not. We don't want the police seen any way, shape or form to be using. They're trying to be showing the police to be one side or the other. The police are supposed to remain neutral. I think we all agree with that. So yeah, the leaflet should be taken down ASAP. It's entirely possible by the time you guys read this article, it may have been as well. The National Police Chief Council guidance that has been adopted in Bedfordshire as the official election protocol states any campaign material which uses existing police images or livery would, to the electorate, appear to show police support for a candidate, and therefore, under the general principle, test should not be allowed. Forces should make it clear all parties and prospective candidates that they do not have permission to use pre-existing photographs, living or publicly involved officers or staff in their campaign publicly. Forces should request candidates to remove or withdraw such material if attempts are made to use them. An official election protocol adds the OPCC and Bedfordshire Police will seek to ensure police staff imagery and livery are not used in any campaigning or publicity material. Where it is so used, the Chief Constable or Chief Executive will consider the need to request the candidate or remove or withdraw the material. The likely reputational damage and damage to the confidence of policing will be considered, the protocol states. Professor Talbot, who is a Bedford resident and lodged a formal complaint with the PCC's office, has at least one other resident, and he accused him of having Akina Basu of having a history of abusing his role of publicity. His last annual report featured over 250 pictures of him in a 52-page annual report. It's quite a feat to fit him all in. I've never seen an annual report quite like it. It's extraordinary, he added. And then he also runs a private security company based in Milton Keynes. He has been the front and centre of Bedfordshire's Police and Crimes Commissioner here. So the annual report here, you can see he's had lots and lots of pictures with the police there. You can see there. Because they're really trying to get his face out there. You can see that there in those pictures. He's also likely to be told to scrap the offending election material if he's found in breach of the rules. However, he's likely to be mostly a symbolic rebuck, given that the leaflets have already gone out. Leaflets appears to have been produced before normal formal election period stated. However, Professor Talbot said residents have received the leaflets since the formal campaign began. He could have said that within the pre-election period rule that it was just a mistake, the leaflets were old. Someone had posted them by mistake, will stop. But he has now doubled down and republished the image of him in uniform on Twitter during the election period. The best thing he would do is to keep quiet and accept a rap, but he's blowing it up and making it worse. He's made clear that he doesn't think it's a problem. Professor Talbot has helped the local Labour PCC candidate on policing policy, but is not a Labour member. Kate Bowman, the head of Governance and Transparency Office of the Police and Crimes Commissioner in Bedfordshire, told Byline Times, "We have been made aware of concerns regarding the use of police-related imagery by a candidate in some of their election material. We are working with the police area returning officer, the PARO, and the National Police Chief Counsel to review the material to assertion of whether it is in breach of our local protocol. If it determines to be so, the candidate will be asked to remove the imagery from their campaign material." His team did not respond to our request for comment in time, but later hit out at X, claiming the issue was much ado about a uniform. The candidate said, "I am extremely proud of my time as Special Constable on frontline duties here in Bedfordshire a few years ago, and before being elected as Police and Crimes Commissioner, the PCC. This is not new, and nor is it news, so attempts of my opponents to stop me sharing pictures and anecdotes of my time as Special Constable will not work. Quite likely, this experience has influenced my decision as priorities as a PCC." He also accused critics of trying to silence him, suggests I am breaking a rule by showing pictures of me in police uniform or police logo, dubbing it nonsense. It is typical desperate political games played during the election times. I earned the uniform, which I wore with pride. I put in 30-hour shifts per week, unpaid, claiming no expenses. I did my job well, and I'm not the first election candidate to use a picture of themselves as a police, army, or some kind of uniform here in Bedfordshire or Britain. I won't be the last. I won't be deterred. It is unclear who he was referring to. A spokesperson for the Electoral Commission referred to Bedfordshire Police and the Office of Bedfordshire PCC, guys. So I do think, if I'm absolutely honest, I do think it's a bit... I don't think it's right that he should have that image on there. I think if it is in breach of the rules, if it's in breach of the rules, then he should not have had the image on there in the first place. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. He should not have the image on there in the first place. If it is found to be in breach of the rules. Whether anything, it's not like, and the thing is, it's like the thing is, the leaflets are already out there, the damage is already done. It's not like he's going to get dropped as a candidate. All I will say is that I really hope he loses, is all I'm going to say. I really hope he doesn't win. Because of him trying to do this, to try and take a kind of a bit of an upper hand, shall we say, in this, because that's how it comes across to me. More of an upper hand tactic for him to try and get a better one up on his opponents in this. But it's certainly a cause for concern, to say the least, especially when already we know that there's going to be so many dirty tactics in. The dirty tactics being used in the local elections is crazy. I just don't really want, like, when the general election is going to be called, there's going to be so much propaganda, so much misinformation. It's going to be insane, guys. It really, really is. And I'm not looking forward to it at all. And neither is Ollie, are you, Ollie? He's not looking forward to it at all. Oh, there you go. Let me put it back on for you. There you go. Yeah. The unfortunately, the lava lamp has just about started to form, but unfortunately for Ollie, for the lava lamp and the orb, we have reached the to everyone who's watched in the live premiere chat for coming along. What did you guys think of some of the stories we covered today, from the Labour candidate in Scotland to Rishi Sunak and his shoes, to foreign aid, Labour's bus plans, post office scandal, the academics' confidentiality, and this leaflet from the Conservative Party Crime Commissioner? What did you guys think of all these stories? Let me know your thoughts and share them down in the comment section down below. But just before you go, if you haven't already, guys, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.